Taking slow again. It'll come. What's happening, guys? It's your boy, the Boxing Lowdown here, man, for TBL Live, a special emergency episode today. I managed to drag Laurie out of work. I'm literally on my break at work, by the way. But listen, we had to do this live. I'm sure you guys have seen the news already, man. And this is our live reaction to it. Wow, where do I start, man? So earlier on today, we got the news that Eubank-Benn tested positive for a banned substance. Later developments throughout the day, the British Boxing Board of Control got wind of this news. They then came out and said that they're prohibiting this fight from taking place. So they're refusing to grant a license to Matchroom Boxing to stage this fight. Since then, we've heard from Eddie Hearn. He's done an interview on all the social media platforms now. He's saying that his intention is for the fight to go ahead. Eubank-Benn has arrived at a public workout today. He stated his intentions for the fight to go ahead. Chris Eubank Jr. has stated his intentions for the fight to go ahead. However, this has been just what developments today, man. It's just unreal. We only previewed this fight yesterday, and now, you know, it's in real jeopardy of not taking place. So we've got people here. They want to hear what you got to say. We've literally got 30 minutes. So I'm just gonna open up the floor to you and let you talk, Laurie, man, because, you know, I'll let you talk about this.
Well, first of all I can say is it's boxing, innit? It's the gift that keeps giving. And I found out roughly around the same time as you did early this afternoon. And although I was flabbergasted, really I shouldn't be, should I? Because this is boxing. And unfortunately, this is the type of thing that can happen and does happen and will continue to happen. Got to say straight off, I've rescinded my membership of the Eubank-Benn fan club. You know what I'm like about people who cheat in boxing and who take performance-enhancing drugs. And listen, I guess I do have to be a bit careful with my words because the B sample isn't in yet. And so technically, you know, on a technicality, we can't really give him that label yet because we don't know. There is a possibility that the B sample might not contain, what was it, chlorophene or whatever it is. But yeah, man. And the other thing that kind of stinks really is the way that boxing will find a way out of this, won't it? Let's be honest. The amount of money that's at stake. I mean, the other day, Eddie Hearn was being quoted as saying that this fight could potentially do up to 1 million pay-per-view buys. And so as soon as the news came out about the adverse test, you know, I mean, Eddie Hearn was out there making statements about, you know,
looking real bad in this, but carry on. He's looking real bad.
Yeah, but he's not going to care, is he? This is the thing.
Yeah, but he's being a hypocrite, man. Like he's being a real hypocrite. Look what his energy towards Jarrell Miller. Look how he's been towards other fighters that have busted dirty. But when he's one of his fighters now, he's really pressing for this to go ahead. Do you know what I mean?
He's got form for this. He's got form for this. He did this with Dillian White versus Rivas, remember? There was the whole stink surrounding that fight. The only way he kind of slid out of it then was because we found out about the adverse test after the fight. Whereas this one, we found out before the fight has taken place. You know what I mean? I mean, let's be honest, I'm sure the vast majority of your viewers and people who listen to this podcast will be the same view as us, which is that there's no way this fight should take place. But the way it works is there are loopholes. There are lawyers out there that will help them circumvent the rules. And I've got no doubt that the fight will go ahead. I've got no doubt about that. And
sorry, carry on. Yep.
Yeah, and that's the thing. So although there's been this furore, we all know deep down what's going to happen. The British Boxing Board of Control, very careful. They're using semantics, using words like prohibit and stuff like that. But then again, even if they say that the fight should be off or is off or whatever, legally they can't do so, can they? So the fight's going to go ahead, man. There's too much money at stake.
Yeah, and this is the problem with boxing, man. You know, like really, the fight should be off. At the end of the day, if you test positive for a banned substance, you shouldn't be allowed to fight. They have obviously come to, you know, Ben and Eubank have spoke personally about this, but, you know, for me, if they do go ahead and sanction this fight, then what's your thoughts on what a lot of people are saying, that they should scrap the rehydration clause for Eubank if they're going to allow this to go ahead? What's
You
your
know
thoughts
what? I
on
don't
that?
even want to go there about that. Compromises
Well,
and stuff like that. The fight shouldn't go ahead. I mean, I'm going to keep the same energy for this fight that I've kept consistently throughout. I'm going to keep the same energy for this fight that I did when I found out that Oscar Valdez failed a test before his fight with Robson Conceicao. And if you remember what happened there, they allowed him to fight knowing that there was an adverse test, and they used the old B sample thing, needed to be tested, and somehow they waited until after the fight to test the B sample. And the WBC at the time did everything they possibly could to ensure that the fight went on. The fight went on, and Valdez actually won a controversial decision. So that was like a double whammy against Robson Conceicao. And let's face it, that was for a world title fight. This particular fight, Ben and Eubank, there's no titles at stake. So it makes it even easier for them to pull it off.
Let me just say another thing on Eddie Hearn. What makes him so hypocritical in this whole situation, right, is I had a look at his statement that he released earlier today, stating that, you know, there was an adverse finding in Nevada testing. However, we went to UCAD and there was no adverse finding. It's just like, do you just use these testing bodies when they suit you then? Do you know what I mean?
Well, that's
like,
exactly what they're doing.
It's just completely like, he's showing himself up here to me. He's showing himself up here, man. Like, he's been an advocate for a clean sport, all of this, you know, wants to portray to the public how much of a, you know, genuine person he is. But in this situation here, like, your fighter got busted on a huge stage. You haven't owned it. You're doing everything you can to keep the fight going. And at the end of the day, it just screams to me of this fight. We all know, really, deep down, we all know that this fight shouldn't really be going on anyway. When you look at the actual contest and the fact that Conor Benn is not a natural middleweight, weight classes matter. He's moving up 2 weights. Eubank has to cut weight. Like, it's just all a bit too much just to get this fight going. But we all kind of gave it a pass because of the nostalgia, because of the history between the surnames and whatever. But when you actually look at it as a contest, it probably shouldn't be going on anyway. And I think the British Boxing Board and Control are looking at that as well and thinking, you know what, we shouldn't even probably sanction this. However, I think the way how Eddie Hearn's been scrambling today has not been a good look. It hasn't been a good look, man. I just don't think it's reflected well. But unfortunately, people will brush this under the carpet eventually. By tomorrow, I just reckon like the dust will have settled a little bit and they'll just allow the fight to go ahead just for their personal viewing. That's my honest opinion.
It's about money, Daryl, plain and simple. I mean, listen, you talk about Eddie Hearn there, but you all know that he's actually got form for this. This is not unprecedented what he's doing. He did the same thing with the Dillian White fight. The difference there being, when I say Dillian White fight, the Dillian White versus Oscar Rivas fight. He did exactly the same thing there. The difference being this time is that we found out before what's going on. The last time he was able to pull it off a bit more easier because those details emerged after the fight had already taken place. You know what I mean? This time we know that beforehand, so the public furore is taking place before the fight. I just think that the whole event is tainted now, man. I mean, we know it's going to go ahead. We know they're going to make a bag of money. I guess there will be some people who take the moral high ground and say, I'm not going to support the fight by buying it after what's taken place. I've seen a few of those comments today on Twitter. But the vast majority of people that were going to buy the fight will not be impeded by this. And so it will just roll on, man. The train will roll on. The fight will go ahead. I've got absolutely no doubt about that. Chris Eubank Jr. said that he wants the fight to go ahead. Conor Benn has said he wants the fight to go ahead. Eddie Hearn has said the fight will go ahead, that the lawyers are looking at stuff, which basically means that they're going to try and come up with some loopholes to circumvent, which I'm sure there are. There always is, aren't there? And the fight will go ahead. But the stench this leaves around boxing, man, is unmistakable.
I'm just seeing some of the comments here. Like a few people saying that Eubank has showed up to the workout and he's rebuffed Conor Benn's claims that they spoke. So he's saying, no, we didn't have a conversation at all. So this ain't looking good, man, in my opinion, because I look at Conor Benn, right? This guy is projected to be a star in the UK. He's already a big name, but he was really on the projection of becoming a star here. Now it's been tainted quite badly. The fact that he's busted positive for a negative substance, a positive substance, sorry. He's goes into this fight with a lose-lose situation. If he wins, then people are going to be like, well, you tested, you busted dirty. If he loses, his credibility will even go down the toilet even more. I just think that this whole situation now is a lose-lose for him. But so the only thing he's going to make on Saturday night is a lot of money. Do you know what I mean? I think
yeah, you're right in saying that, Daryl. But is that, strictly speaking, is that true? I mean, those things that you cited there about popularity and being tainted, let's be honest, did it affect Canelo? Did it affect Tyson Fury? I don't think it did. So, you know what I mean? So, yes, he's going to have to ride roughshod for a while. But you know what this sport is like? You know, not just this sport, let's be honest, it happens in a lot of other sports. You know what will happen in time. He'll be fighting again. And if he wins, in time, it will be forgotten about. I mean, how many people now, I said that to you on your show the other day when we was talking about Gareth Arsehole Davis. How many people are castigating Tyson Fury for his failed drugs test and the stuff that went down after that, with the castrated boar meat and all the whole scandal that took place surrounding that? No one remembers and no one brings up anymore. Canelo, I mean, I actually take stick from some of the people who watch this show when I talk about Canelo failing drugs tests. People actually have a go at me and call me a hater. So there's a lot of hypocrisy when it comes to drug taking in boxing. And I honestly feel, and it kind of pains me to have to say this, but I honestly do believe this, is the only time they're going to crack down on this thing properly is, unfortunately, is why either there's a serious injury, like a serious brain injury, or God forbid somebody loses their life at the hands of somebody that was found to be cheating in this way. Only then will it, and even then I'm not sure if it will be addressed properly. So although everyone's jumping on the moral high ground now and saying, oh, it's a disgrace, it's a scandal, it's a farce, come Saturday, a lot of them same people, and you know what, I'm going to include myself in that as well. You know what I mean? I've got to, you know what I mean? I'm part of a watch along. I said I wasn't going to buy the fight for reasons that you alluded to earlier. I just didn't think that this fight was a proper fight in terms of the way it was put together. I just thought it was manipulating the public, this so-called rivalry between two guys who, one is 2 weight classes north of the other one. So there was no real rivalry there. That rivalry was created. It was contrived by the promoters. And let's face it, they hooked a lot of people into it. And now you got this. It's ironic, isn't it, that a fight that was created by, let's face it, trying to manipulate the public is now tainted in this way. But like I said, a lot of those same people who are complaining, and like I said, I include myself, got to be honest, I'm slightly hypocritical as well. I'm going to be watching this fight. Really, I should say to myself, I'm not even going to watch it. That's what people should do. So I'm not going to have anything to do with it. But that's not going to happen.
I have to say this, man. I feel like your energy ain't the same as like it was when Valdez busted dirty on this.
It's the same.
I don't feel like it's the same.
Shall I tell you why it's slightly different with Valdez?
I feel like you're a bit more lenient towards Ben on this.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not. Because if you remember, you can go back and watch it. I mean, I haven't watched the rerun of that show, but I'm quite certain in what I said is that he should have been stripped of his belt. And the fight shouldn't happen. And that's what I'm saying here. The fight shouldn't happen. And I said that Oscar Valdez should have been stripped from his belt and it should have been awarded to Robson Conceicao. What I said earlier, though, there is no belt for this fight. It's just a contrived rivalry fight.
But it's still boxing, though. It still hurts.
Yeah, and I've said that the fight shouldn't go ahead, but it will go ahead. And I'm using the Oscar Valdez Conceicao as an example of why it will go ahead, because the suits, the money men, people like the promoters and so forth, will do their very best to ensure that the fight will go ahead. So I'm not saying it should go ahead. I'm saying it will go ahead. Something very.
You're advocating it by watching, saying you're openly coming out and saying I'm still going to watch it and all of that. Like it's, I don't know, man. I just feel like there's.
Well, I'm saying that there's a lot of hypocrisy involved, and I'm including myself in that because really and truly, I should, given my stance on anti-drugs in boxing, even though I'm not buying the fight. And I wouldn't have watched it normally, I am participating in a watch-along for DR Sports. So if I'm adhering to my beliefs totally, what I should be saying to those people is, I refuse to take part on the watch along on Saturday, but I probably won't do. I'll probably end up watching and commentating on the fight, and that's where I'm guilty as well of some hypocrisy. But would I pay for this? I wouldn't have paid for it anyway, because I told you before, I wasn't in agreement with the way this whole thing was constructed in the first place. I felt that it was wrong. I thought that the public were being manipulated or been told about some rivalry that really never was. It's just been contrived to, you know what I mean, elicit money from the people.
This whole situation has just got me thinking, and big up to everybody with the comments, man. I'm loving the amount of comments we're getting in here. Hit the like button, share the video. Don't forget to subscribe. I see you all. Does this kind of give weight to what Eubank Senior was saying? We saw him coming out saying that he was, saying people should boycott the fight, said that he had no interest. He didn't have a vested interest in this fight. He didn't want it to happen. Do you think he got wind of this before? Do you think that's why he's been so outspoken on this? Apparently, this test was taken back in August. So since then, we've seen Eubank Senior come out and really, voice his concerns about this fight. So maybe that's what it was.
It's possible. I mean, obviously, we don't know because he's not given his reasons as to why. He's alluded to some reasons, meaning that he thinks that the health, there's a health concern, given that his son has to lose so much weight and then not rehydrate afterwards. And there is a genuine concern about that because, it's a lot of weight to lose. And if you're not allowed to rehydrate within a certain, frame, in terms of how much weight you can put back on, that is technically dangerous in a 12-round fight. So he's absolutely right to express his concerns about that. However, his son, who is the actual participant, has said he has no concerns about that. So at the end of the day, he can express his concern, but his son is the one involved directly, and he said he's happy to do it because, of course, he's going to benefit to the tune of millions. You know what I mean? It's not been revealed how much they're going to earn because obviously there's a pay-per-view aspect to this fight, man. But this is a mega rich fight. I mean, if Eddie Hearn is talking in the ballpark of 1 million pay-per-views, that is staggering amount of money on the line. So no wonder, put yourself in Eddie Hearn's shoes. No wonder he's desperate to try and save this show. If it was me and you, we probably would do the same thing. Doesn't make it right, of course, but I'm just saying.
I'm just saying, man, like the energy for me is like...
It's not about energy, it's about reality.
Got to look at morals, man. Like,
listen,
we talk about it all the time.
One day you will appreciate as I do now.
So what you're saying is the more money it is, it's the more money that's on stake, try and make it work.
Exactly. That's exactly what I'm saying. That's exactly what I'm saying. And I'm also saying when it comes to money like this, morals will go out the window. And that, my dear son, is the reality of this business. And it's not just this business, by the way. A lot of businesses where people are more than prepared to turn a blind eye, to break the rules, to circumvent the rules in order for the event to go ahead so they can benefit to the tune of millions. So as much as in an ideal world, I wouldn't want to see this fight go ahead because it shouldn't go ahead. I'm quite unequivocally clear about this. It should not go ahead. But Daryl, at the end of the day, as surely as night follows day, this fight will go ahead. And I'm not listening. What's this guy? I'm not taking it easy on Ben. I've already said the fight shouldn't go ahead. And I've already said that the difference between this fight and the Oscar Valdez fight is that I was calling for Oscar Valdez to be stripped because he held a belt.
Yeah, but what he's saying here is like
Conor Benn was not a world title holder.
What he's saying here is with the whole Canelo. Let me just read what he's saying. What he's saying is the whole Canelo. We hear it every week about Canelo popping dirty. Ben has popped dirty, and it just doesn't feel like the same energy at the moment. That's all I'm saying.
Listen, Conor Benn is tainted by this. He's forever going to be tainted by this. What do you want me to do? I mean, I've said if what we're hearing about the sample A being flawed, adverse testing, then he's a drugs cheat. And I've said to you that even though I'm saying it, I do have to be a little bit careful because the B sample's not in yet. With Canelo, both the samples are in, A and B. So he's a classified drugs cheat. I don't know. You know what I mean? That's it. At the end of the day, Conor Benn doesn't have a belt. So what do you want me to do? Calling for him to be stripped of what? He doesn't hold a
Does
belt.
that make it all right that he don't have a belt? You know
It's
what
a
I mean?
fact, though. What people saying? Oh, the energy's not the same. What do you want me to do? He hasn't got a belt.
So what? So because you don't have a belt, you're all right to pop dirty then?
No, but I'm saying that the only difference being is with Oscar Valdez is that I call for his belt to be taken off him. Yeah, because he had a belt. I'm saying Conor Benn does not have a belt, so you can't call for him to have his belt taken off him. I've already said the fight
What you
shouldn't
can
go ahead.
call,
I've already said if the B sample comes back negative as well, then as far as I'm concerned, he's a fully confirmed drugs cheat.
I think what makes this worse as well is that there don't seem to be much, there don't seem to be much coming back from Conor Benn in terms of his, remorse. He's really outspoken. He's coming out and he's saying, I'm not a cheat. I ain't got nothing to be ashamed about. I'm this, I'm that. I just think it's a bit shameless, man. Like you tested positive for a banned substance and you're coming out saying, nah, I'm not, I ain't done nothing wrong. I ain't got nothing to worry about. I ain't done this. It just doesn't look good. I don't think.
Darryl, what did you expect him to do? Say, yeah, you know what? I've been cheating for years. Did you really expect him to do that? Because Canelo didn't, Oscar Valdez, none of them do. None of these guys admit to it. They will all make excuses and say, I unknowingly ingested this, ingested that. Somebody gave me a over-the-counter supplement. I took that not knowing. That's what they're all going to say. Mm-hmm. But we all know what really went down. You know what I mean? But what I would say as well with Conor Benn, and I said at the start of this show that I've rescinded my membership of his fan club, and I'm being honest about that. That now calls into question all his wins. I was thinking about that before I came on the show. I was thinking to myself, I'm looking back at those devastating knockouts, and I'm comparing it to when he first started boxing. I actually came on your show a few times, and I've described Conor Benn as the most improved fighter in this country, haven't I? And now I'm looking back at that and thinking, yeah, well, that's probably why he's so improved, because he was being genetically enhanced.
Well, all I'll say on that is that I'm not saying I told you so. I'm not saying that to you, but I'm just saying on here, I had my doubts. I was like, look, man, the hype train is a bit too much. We ain't seen him in there with like a legitimate contender yet, and people are already putting him in the top 3 at welterweight and stuff like that. So, I'm looking at this and thinking to myself, it could be a long way back in terms of winning the public over. Maybe not. I could be wrong. The BBC were supposed to screen a documentary tonight on Ben Eubank. They've pulled that now. So, I just don't know how it's going to look for him. This is a lose-lose situation.
It is.
If he gets the ring on Saturday. And I don't know how he restores his reputation. Because for me, the comments that I've seen, he seems quite bullish. He's not holding back. He's kind of doubling down and saying, I ain't got nothing to be thing about. I ain't tested whatever. And I just don't think that looks very good. He almost needs someone to get in his ear and just say, look, keep quiet. We'll release a statement and don't do anything more. But to me, it seems like he's damaging his rep a little bit here.
Yeah, his reputation is undoubtedly damaged. And I think his whole career will be tarnished from here on in. But if you look at it from his point of view, number one, there's no way he's going to come out and admit that he's a drugs cheat. And number two, he's preparing on Saturday for a fight, which will go ahead. So he's not going to try and entertain any more chat on that. So of course he's going to deny it and double down on it. And let's be honest, that's what all of them do. I don't recall any of these guys coming out and saying, yeah, I cheated. You know what I mean? And if they do say, yeah, I took a substance, they're going to blame it on somebody else. Say, yeah, somebody gave me this to eat. And unknowingly, unknowing to me, it contained substances that are on the ban list. I never knew anything about it. I mean, like I said, name me one boxer. I think the only boxer that I can remember in recent times, and that was a long time ago, there was a heavyweight called Larry Alabama, I think his name is. Excuse me if I butcher that name. Olibamiwu or something like that. They used to call him the War Machine when he was boxing. He got busted for drugs, and then at first he denied it. But then I think he tried to strike some kind of plea bargain. And I think he turned snitch and grasped some other man out. And during the course of that, he admitted that he'd taken it. And he tried to broker some deal whereby if he grasped up some other man in the industry, he was hoping that he would get his license back. I can't quite remember how it all ended up. But yeah, he's the only one.
Okay.
Everyone else denies it.
We got 5 minutes left. I just want to, there's been loads of comments here. Shout out to everybody, man. Harvey said here, Hearn would be raging in front of the cameras if this was Eubank. He would.
Of course he would.
Stefan saying here, the odds are really stacked against Eubank if it goes ahead. By the way, weight cut, can only rehydrate 10 pounds. And now he's got to fight a drugs cheat. He needs a knockout. He's not getting a decision.
Well, as you alluded to earlier, Daryl, he will probably use what's happened today to broker a deal about the rehydration clause now. And why wouldn't he? If you, I mean, see, this is what I'm saying. It all gets silly now, because if he is struggling with the weight, I'm sure somebody in his group will say, listen, man, don't even bother with the rehydration. I mean, at the end of the day, the fight's going to go ahead. He's cheated already. You just come out and say, well, look, I mean, if I'm not allowed to rehydrate up to a certain poundage, then I'm not going to fight. And then they'll let him fight, because at the end of the day, this fight only was and ever was about money. So it's kind of ironic in a way. It's almost karma, isn't it, for this fight? The fact that the whole rivalry was contrived and created to make money, and now look what's happened now. It's almost as if God said, right, you know what? You know what I mean? It's like a karma. Honestly, that's how it feels to me. Almost like this was meant to happen, to just teach a lesson to these people that this is what happens, man, when you try to, exploit the gullible people out there,
Well, we're going to have to wrap this up in a minute, because I literally have to stick it to half an hour. But just a final thought from me and then from you. And shout out to everybody in the chat as well. Thank you so much for all the comments, man. It's really appreciated. But just a last thought on me on this. I have to say, like, when this fight was announced originally, me and you, we didn't really take in the hype of this fight, because we looked at it more as a contest rather than the actual surnames of the boxers. But I guess we kind of warmed into it, as you do, once the hype builds up. I was watching the promo show yesterday on Matchroom Boxing's YouTube channel, which was pretty good. I just think it's very disappointing, man. The whole of the UK had their eyes on this. There were loads of casuals that were messaging me, like letting me know, like, "Right, I'm really looking forward to this." And I didn't want to put a down on it to them. So I was just like, yeah, man, it should be good, whatever. And now boxing has given itself a black eye again in front of the casuals. It's going to give them an excuse to look at other sports. And, it's just going to put boxing in a bad light for me. It will still go ahead, in my opinion. The British Boxing Board may get talked around. They may have to sanction it, or Eddie Hearn may look at, an overseas licensor to put it on. But just a bad day all round in terms of boxing in general, man. And not a good look for Conor Benn in terms of his rep, his popularity. It's disappointing, because he was on the trajectory of becoming like a big star in the UK. He still can, I guess. But all in all, just very disappointing. And if the fight was called off, that would be justified. However, I just don't see that happening. I'll let you finish it off, Lloyd.
Well, I mean, yeah, you've said all that. And listen, yeah, I agree with pretty much everything you said there. I mean, you will watch a fight, won't you? Which means that you're in the same boat as me. We're both hypocrites, because we've both gone on record as saying the fight shouldn't happen, which it shouldn't. And we've been quite clear about that. And we've invoked our moral high ground. But at the end of the day, we have to be honest and say we too are hypocrites, because even though we won't be buying the fight, we're going to watch it. So, in another way, that's still supporting the fight. And it's interesting that today, when the news broke, stuff is going around on Twitter. You're ringing up people, they're ringing you, and all sorts of stuff going back and forth. And I actually got into a conversation with a couple of people who work in the industry. And both of them said to me today that, listen, yes, it's disgraceful what's happened. Conor Benn, if that B sample does pop dirty, then he's a cheat. But then they also said to me that, Laurie, this kind of thing is rife in boxing. And they said, both of them said to me, goes, you'd be surprised just how far this goes, especially with the top fighters in the game, because they've got the money to try and cover it up. And they've got, doctors and all sorts of people that will enable them to clean it up. Obviously, he made a mistake somewhere and he got caught out. He didn't cycle off properly or whatever it was. So I'd like him to explain how he would take, because that drug that he's accused of taking is a woman's infertility drug. So why is a male taking that?
Because it can help boost testosterone.
Yeah, I know, but he's not going to say that, is he? I'd like to know how that got in his system. So when he's there denying it and say, I've never taken, I want to know. But no doubt he'll come up with something. They always do. But yeah, man, it's a very sad situation. And I do think that regardless of what happens on Saturday, Eubank-Benn's career now is forever tainted. It already is, because I'm looking back at, you know what I mean, video footage of him knocking Chris Algieri out cold and stuff like that. And I'm thinking to myself, boy, that kind of explains how he developed this power. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So, yeah, man.
We'll see, man. Yeah, disappointing news. However, at the moment, the fight is still currently going ahead. It hasn't been called off. We'll keep you guys updated to any news. Follow us on all platforms, man. We're not only on YouTube, we're on Instagram. I update regularly on there. My Twitter account as well, the boxing_lowdown. Instagram is Boxing Lowdown, all one word. But yeah, you know, if it does happen, I guess we will be, you know, recording the show after. So we'll keep you guys updated either way. But yeah, disappointing news today. Thank you to everybody that's joined in the comments. I've got to go back to work, man. So yeah, it's a bit crazy, but thank you all for joining, and we'll catch you guys very soon, man. Peace out.